Hello, everybody. I'm David Black, and this is
Kirk Carey.
and we're very excited to join you tonight. As you know, this is going to be our online version of Saturday Night Light, and we're glad to welcome everybody in our online community. We are talking about what I believe is a very important topic, and that is having faith in this time of uncertainty, this time of anxiety. Does faith have a purpose? Does faith play a role at all in this time? And that's what we want to look at. What are the questions people are asking, and are there answers that we can find? I think it's very important. Kirk?
Yeah, I think it is too. And uncertainty is always difficult to work with, right? Because the unknown factors of life come into play. I think it's always difficult for us to try to gain control over stuff that we don't understand. I think that's where a lot of anxiety comes from, is when we, have fear and have anxiety, which I don't think is totally bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think all fear and all anxiety is totally bad. I like to say if I'm standing in front of a 18-wheeler truck and it's barreling at me on a highway, I should be afraid of that. I should have some sense of anxiety about what could happen. That's health. I don't think that it's unhealthy. Now, if I actively put myself in those situations, that could be bad. Or if I allow myself to believe that that's always what's going to happen to me and I have no control and I have no options, that's when I think fear and anxiety kind of go screwy and we lose control. But to have fear, to have anxiety, I don't know. I don't think it's so out of bounds.
Right. Well, I think also there's wisdom here. What is the path of discernment? Because it's not to be fearless, but it's really to fear less.
Right.
And how we fear less is by understanding the role of faith. Mm-hmm. I love where Isaiah, who went through all kinds of crazy situations, said that your mind stays in peace if you stay on Him. Mm-hmm. If you stay on the Lord, that the Lord is faithful. And peace is something that I don't look at when I see the news. I don't hear interviews with people. I don't see people walking in peace.
Right. Yeah, I don't either. And I think, again, I think people care about their loved ones, right?
Yes.
I think people, think about their own lives and their children and their grandparents and the people they care about. And I think a lot of the anxiety or the lack of peace comes from the fact that they feel like those people could be harmed in this situation.
Definitely.
And so I think, what is a steadfast mind? Like if God's promise is, for those that have a steadfast mind, I'm going to provide perfect peace. I think a question for us to say, well, I guess the first thing is to say, look, being concerned about people you love, that's okay. And then the second is, how do I have a steadfast mind while being concerned about those people?
Right.
How do I do that?
Right. And I think also we have to get down to the root of it is, do I believe there is a God or not?
Right.
When you think about it, because if there is no God, then this is crazy.
Right.
I talked to a friend last night, and I said, hey, do you want to schedule time to get together? And she goes, no, I think we're all going to be dead soon.
Yeah.
So some people, they literally are living
They are.
in that reality. I mean, it's gone to hysteria at some point. But I believe there is a God, and I don't believe that God that I believe in, that you believe in, is up in heaven going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Right. I didn't know about this virus. This is catching me unaware. I think God has a plan. And, I love it, that quote that talks about crisis. What is a crisis? The little symbol of two symbols, it's danger and it's opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I think this is an opportunity for us to dig deep and say, do I believe what I keep telling people I believe about my faith?
Or maybe there's something that I don't believe that I should.
Right.
Because one of the things that God says about Himself is that He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Mm-hmm. And so I look at my life in comparison to that, and I think, okay, I know I am not the same yesterday, today, and forever. I know that circumstances, frustrations, stressors in my life cause me to do different things. And so my belief in God helps me to go, there's a better way.
Right.
Because His promise is I'm not up there, like you're saying. I'm not up in heaven freaking out about coronavirus.
Right.
And I'm the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so I look at that in comparison to my life, and I think, no, I'm not that way. So I wonder, people act the way they act because they don't really have hope, because they've determined inside of themselves really to not have hope by not believing in something more than themselves. And I believe that sometimes in these situations, that's what people really are facing. Mm-hmm. And I also think that we've got a problem in the United States about priorities. Mm-hmm. We've got a problem with priorities. The thought of not being able to go to work for 2 weeks is crazy to people. But what, the other opportunity of crisis is, Go see your kids that you might not have seen because you're working all the time. Maybe go see your spouse that you're not being able to spend the time with your spouse that you otherwise would have. That's that other side of these difficult moments create opportunities for us in our lives. And we could either get stuck only looking at the crisis and only looking at the what ifs, or say, what is possible? I look at that from my life. My kids are off school. I get to spend time with my kids that otherwise I don't get that time. My wife isn't working, and I think, you know what? I'm going to have some time with my wife that I haven't had. I could look at all the pain and all the difficulty, or I could look at the opportunities that are in front of me,
Well, I think, we talked about what does faith have to do, and what is faith? Faith is believing there's a God in heaven that can speak to us. I love the verse that talks about having the mind of Christ. What is the mind of Christ? I don't think if Jesus were here today, he would be worried. I think he'd be walking in discernment. I think he'd be washing his hands. I think he'd be doing what the recommendations are.
Sure.
Having faith doesn't mean you ignore, or just, I'm not going to believe any of that. I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to go do what I want to do.
Yeah.
It's having discernment, but it's walking in your heart and your mind with peace. And I think the mind of Christ is having a mind of peace. It's understanding when the word says, cast all your cares on him because he cares for you. And he does. He cares for us. He's going to walk through this time with us. And each of us has a choice. I think sometimes we forget there's a choice we make, sometimes every day, sometimes every hour. Are we going to choose anxiety and stress? And anxiety and stress always feed on uncertainty. When there's an uncertain situation, it feeds on that and it grows.
Right.
Or we can choose faith and say, no, here's the situation. I'm going to follow what the CDC says. And me personally, just, I'm going to look at the CDC, Control Center for Disease and Control. I'm going to follow the World Health Organization. I'm not going to spend my time obsessing over all the news.
Right.
Because what you obsess of, what you feed grows. And I think we need to look at the facts, unbiased facts. You got to choose carefully. And I encourage all of you, choose carefully what you're listening to, what you're watching, because the media knows if it bleeds, it leads. They're going to feed on hysteria. But that's why I love the Control CDC and the WHO, the World Health Organization. I think you can get unbiased facts.
Yeah.
When someone asks me a question today, about something, I said, let's look at the CDC, look and see what the recommendations are.
Right.
Because it's unbiased, it's not political. Whether we like it or not, there is a political process going on here. But we have a choice. We can choose faith, or we can choose to feed our anxiety.
Yeah, and I like to, in my life, when I have to make decisions, and a lot of this, you and I talk about all the time, like how to make a good decision. Like, how do you make a good decision in your life? And sometimes you just got to focus on, I think, two simple things. What do I know, and what do I not know?
Right.
And quite honestly, what can I not know? What's not even possible for you to know? I think people look at this virus situation and at some point in our lives, for all of us, we're going to face death. That's a reality of the human existence. It's a real thing in life. We all do, and people do. You even hear people talking about it. Oh, such and such flu took this many lives this year. Drunk drivers took this many lives this year. These different diseases took these many lives. And they're trivializing the reality that death is part of life. And so when you face this coronavirus, I think people, what happens is this thing that they thought was off in the distance, that they could push off or wasn't going to be real for a while, becomes more real.
Yeah.
And it creates this thing that, suddenly everything's changing. Well, that's not really true, because how can you guarantee your tomorrow? How can you guarantee your next week? How can you guarantee your next 2 weeks? When you really stop yourself and you pull yourself away from just the coronavirus or COVID-19, you realize, what control did I have over all these circumstances in the first place? So I think that frames the what you don't know or what you can't control.
Right.
And then you look at what do you know and what can you control? And you can control your responses to the situations in your life. Do you go home and act with fear and anxiety around your loved ones? And do you fill them with that? Or do you take the opportunity to fill them with faith, with hope, with love, with joy? How are you responding to the situation? And I think in this case, what do I know? Well, I can control my response. What do I know? Well, there's professionals out there that are telling me what to do, i.e., wash my hands, practice good hygiene, social distance yourself. That's why we're even having this conversation. It's like we're operating off of what we know and not operating off of what we don't know.
Right. And when you think about it, this also gives us an opportunity for a larger discussion of why did God even allow this?
Right.
Some people would say, like,
what
God,
a good question.
There's going to be all kinds of discussions around this, like, oh, God's sending this to punish the world.
Right.
But the reality is, Adam and Eve made a decision a long time ago. Their decision was, even though God said, don't partake of this, they said, we're not going to trust God, we're going to do what we want.
Right.
And that was really what kind of set things in the wrong direction. And so it's very clear that we live on an infected planet, that we no longer live in the Garden of Eden, we don't ever live in paradise. And because God allowed us free choice, sin has come to the world. And so many things happen,
right?
Because sin, sickness, a lot of that is because of infection. And I think, so I think God is there to be with people, but God, because he gave people free choice, we live on an infected planet.
Yeah, and actually, when I consider that, and I think that's such a good statement. When I consider choice in this circumstance, and even God and what's going on, I think what people would prefer in this circumstance is that God for to be real, right? So what people would want is God to be real and go, poof, and the coronavirus to go away.
Right.
And I can go back to living my insulated life where nothing goes wrong.
Right.
God was good for me for that 10 seconds where he got rid of coronavirus, And that's what I think people really think about God, is that he's in heaven just going, coronavirus today, no coronavirus tomorrow. AIDS today, no AIDS tomorrow. And I mean, and when you think about it, what a ridiculous way to view something.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a quote. I don't know if this. It's a friend of mine said. He goes, every step to authentic faith goes through atheism.
Yeah.
So what that means to me, and what my friend Brian, I think, was trying to say with that, is that we ascribe to God a lot of things that God didn't sign his name to. Like we go, why did God make my child do this, or why did God allow this disaster to happen? Well, that's not what God did. God has given us free will, and so we misunderstand. We make the blame God for all the things that God didn't do. And I believe that what God does say, what he does promise, is when these things happen, that he's going to be with us. And he's not going to make everything disappear. And not only that, but he's going to use this.
Sure.
You look at like Joseph and Noah, some of these heroes of the faith from Hebrews 11 and what they went through. Just think about Noah too. We want things to be over quick. I mean, they believed it took Noah 60 to 70 years to build the ark.
I know.
I'm just picturing that. God says, look, Noah, I want you to build an ark, and then I'm going to save you and your family and all the cute little animals around you.
And everyone around him is just making fun of him.
Yeah. But
this
is, some people say as long as 100 years it took him to build the ark. But I think realistically the historians say, no, it probably took him 60 to 70 years to build this ark. So can you imagine around year 40, he's out there in the sun, there's no shade, he's just hammering away. Did I really hear God? Is there really a God? And sometimes it takes that. We have to have patience, but God is who he says he is. And we have to make that, it is a choice.
It is a choice.
That's why faith is evidence of things not seen.
Right.
The assurance of things that we hope for, but we haven't seen yet. So that's why faith is faith. And you just have to decide at the core of your being, do I believe God is in charge and in control? Can I trust him? Can I cast all my cares on him? Can I walk through this in peace because my mind is stayed on him or not?
Yeah, and what is it that I'm having faith about?
Right.
Because again, I think in this present situation, what people want is, I think what a lot of people would want is coronavirus to not exist anymore.
Right.
Go away. Just go away. What am I having faith in, right? And am I having faith that I'm going to be as comfortable as I possibly can be? Am I having faith that nothing difficult is ever going to come my way? What's my faith in, And I think faith in God is not just for your momentary individual pleasure, but for your eternal happiness, joy, and presence with him. Are we living our life in such a way where we want to secure tomorrow, or are we living our life in such a way where we care about eternity? And the human existence is tough because of that. We have all these present circumstances that present themselves to us all the time to try to get our focus to be on that one individual moment. But just take the coronavirus for it, right? Just look at the coronavirus. If you looked at just the 5 or 10 or 3 week window of this virus, you're going to be overwhelmed. Everyone's getting it in 2 months. The whole world has coronavirus.
We're all dying.
Yeah, we're all dying. If you look at it. But the reality is, look at China. The more time that's gone by, the less and less this has been an issue in the countries where it started.
Right.
But the present situation would be to convince you that there's no hope. There's no chance this goes away. And I'm not trying to trivialize people's experiences. I'm just trying to point out human nature is to look at your circumstance and let that to define your world. And faith is to look beyond your circumstance to something that defines the world, right? God can define the world for person if we're looking to have faith in him. Your circumstance can define your reality if you have only an eye to look at that. And that's why, like, for instance, Peter, you brought it up. Peter was one of Jesus' followers. And Peter had all kinds of crazy experiences. I think about when there was this moment where Jesus and his followers, and you know this well, Jesus and his followers were in a boat. There's this storm happening all around them. Jesus was asleep on a shore side. And then suddenly they see this figure walking at them on the water. They all think it's a ghost. And they start freaking out. And the closer that Jesus gets to them, the more they realize that it's Jesus walking on the water, in the midst of all this craziness, all this storm. And Peter sees him, and Jesus calls out to Peter. Peter gets out of the boat and starts walking towards him. And he just starts listening to God's voice, listening to Jesus' voice, and he's walking towards him in faith. The closer he gets to Jesus, he starts to notice the water, his circumstances, his issues, and he starts to sink. The moment Peter takes his eyes off of Jesus, he starts to go down.
Right.
And later on in Peter's life, I think he's reflecting on all the different circumstances he had and he lived through. And he's saying to people, cast your cares and anxiety on Jesus. Because you know what Peter learned in that moment? That Jesus was not going to let him drown. He reached out, he grabbed his hand, and he picked him up. Hey, come up to where I live. Come up to where I see things, Peter. You think this storm is everything, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you all for hanging in here as we kind of share our thoughts. I think we want to kind of wrap this up a little bit with the so what.
Sure.
So what? What does it mean? So what are we supposed to do now? You guys have talked. You've shared some interesting thoughts, some interesting ideas.
Yeah. How does this impact my life right now?
Well, let's come up with, I think, some clear so whats that, what are some practical steps? What are some things we should do? How does our faith interact? And I think, we can kind of share back and forth, but I think step one is to know it's a choice.
Right.
That, our default is to anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Our default is not to faith. And so we have to make the faith choice. We have to decide that I'm going to, and I think sometimes it helps to say it out loud. People can have different thoughts about that, but science proves saying something out loud helps. To say, I've made a decision today when you get up in the morning, I will cast all my cares on him. I commit today to the Word of God, being anxious for nothing, but in everything I will pray and bring my request to God.
Yeah, and
so I think that's step one, is practical, is saying the Scriptures.
It is, and without the knowledge of where those things are, I think it's difficult for people to do that sometimes. So, you're like a walking encyclopedia when it comes to the Bible. I think we should talk about some of those scriptures that we even talked about. Like, I talked about Peter, and I think it was like 1 Peter 5.
7.
7 is a great place for us to
write it down, 1 Peter 5, 7.
And then
say it every morning.
And then we also talked about, you mentioned Isaiah.
Right.
Isaiah
26, 5.
Okay, so
3.
Isaiah 26, 5.
Yeah.
I also think there's tons of options in Proverbs. I love King Solomon from Proverbs. The wisest man to ever live is what some people call him. And I have always found his words to be so important in difficult times. You could just open up any book of Proverbs, really, and find wisdom about how to walk through your circumstances. You mentioned, as a man thinks, so he is. And that's really what Solomon said. As a man thinks, so he is. And you're talking about the cognitive triangle. Thoughts that lead to feelings, and feelings that leads to actions. Mm-hmm. And so, I think the so what, like you said, commit to thoughts that lead you to positive action in your life.
And looking up some of those verses that we mentioned, 2 Peter, and also I think you mentioned Proverbs. I love the verse in Proverbs 3, verse 5, chapter 3, verse 5. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart.
Right. Lean not on understanding.
So it says lean not on understanding. It doesn't say ignore your understanding. In other words, wash your hands, take precautions. Don't go in lots of people and start hugging everybody. This is an elbow time. Lean on your understanding, but in all your ways, acknowledge him. Say, God, I acknowledge that you're here. I trust you. And the Amplified, I love it, says, and he shall cause your thoughts become agreeable to his will.
Right.
And you'll succeed. And that's what you want. You want your thoughts to be aligned with the mind of Christ. And it says, he who keeps his mind on me, he shall keep in perfect peace.
Yeah, and I think that the next so what in this moment, it really relates back to what we talked about this last Saturday Night Light. I ended that with saying that God really gives us 2 major commandments in our lives. And the second one is to go have mercy on people. There's such an opportunity right now to show mercy and love to everyone in your community. Are you going to be that person that rushes into the grocery store, pushes people out of the way because you're only consumed with your present situation. Are you going to think about other people? Are you going to still be a person of love and of joy and of peace to your greater community? Or are you just going to be someone who's adding to hysteria?
Right.
I get sad when I see people push people down. I get sad when I see people put their own individual needs above everybody else. In our society, it's a problem. It's a major problem that we face. And I think this is an opportunity to put into practice the concept of showing mercy to other people. People are going to be in need. People's families have been and are going to be impacted by this situation. And I think asking that, this is such a great opportunity. How can I show mercy and love in my community right now? We have Facebook, we have Instagram. Get out there and encourage people with what you can do. I think it makes a big difference.
Well, it's like 2 weeks ago, we talked about relationships determine life, or a couple weeks before that. And this is all intermingled. We're going through this together.
Right.
And we're going to go through this together, and we're going to get out of this together. This is not for the rest of our lifetime, even though it might feel like that. This is a season. It's a difficult season. It's a season where our lives are going to be disrupted. Lots going to happen. But just to sum up, I think first, state the scriptures out loud. Have the mind of Christ. Show mercy. Make the faith choice. Choose every day. Jesus said, I have come that you might have life and life abundant. Like, why did Jesus come? Mm-hmm. Well, because the thief comes to steal. He comes to kill, destroy, to bring sickness. That's according to what the Bible says. Mm-hmm. But Jesus said, I've come that they might have life and life abundant. And that starts in our mind.
Right.
And if we want to change our mind, we have to change our thoughts. We have to look at what's going on, and we have to believe what the Word of God says. And so I think all those things are good. What I like to do is just to pray for everyone, if you'd be willing to join us in prayer, and then maybe you can give like a final challenge as we wrap this up. So would you pray with me? Father, I just pray that you would just be with us. We go through these times and we wonder, Lord, where are you? But we know that you know us, you know the situation, you're not nervous. God, so like your word declares in 1 Peter, Lord, that we should cast all of our anxieties and cares on you because you care for us. Thank you for caring for us. Be with each person here, Lord. Keep us safe. Give us wisdom to how to walk through this. And Lord, I just thank you for all those people that joined us. We pray that you bless them. Thank you that your word declares we can put your hand of divine protection and blessing on people. Lord, that you do give us the blessings of Abraham, that wherever we place our feet, that there you will command a blessing, and whatever we put our hand to shall cause to prosper. So Lord, even in these difficult, even economic times, give us the faith of Noah, who for many, many years just believed what you said and didn't doubt no matter what the circumstances showed. Or like Peter, who, Lord, so easy to look at the waves and the circumstances around us, but once he fixed his eyes on you, he came to peace. Lord, just give us peace. Help us to focus our eyes on you. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, well, I like to think about, like you said, what opportunities do I have? What opportunities do you have? And I think that when people think about these circumstances, they can think about how much they don't have. They can think about what they need, and they can get lost in that. And I think the opportunity for all of us right now, the thing that I'd like to challenge you to do over these coming weeks is to think about the fact that maybe you actually have abundance. Maybe you actually have more than what you need. And maybe there's someone around you who needs something. Whether it's a loving note, whether it's a kind gesture, whether it's $5, whether it's one of the rolls of toilet paper that you might have in your house. I just think, what is actually abundance? What is abundance? Well, if I need 3, abundance would be 4, right? Because 3 is what I need and I have one more. If I have one more than what I need, I actually have abundance in my life. And so I just encourage you, and I actually challenge you over these coming weeks. Do you have abundance in your life? And can you bless somebody else? And doing that, I think, will make you see your life in the perspective that I think it actually is. And I think it opens up an opportunity to create new relationships. It opens up an opportunity for God to bless your life. I think if you and I and everyone could find opportunities to give and help people in this time, I really think God blesses that. So we really appreciate you guys joining with us. We're going to do these over the next couple weeks. We're going to be having SNL in this form. And then hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person. But look, you can interact. You can leave comments. You can ask questions. And we're going to be monitoring
Comment below.
And we're just, we're excited to continue on with Saturday Night Light, and we hope that you and your family stay safe. Again, please listen to what the CDC and the other health professionals are saying, and take this opportunity to really connect with loved ones. And man, we can't wait to see you guys again.